Good morning. I am Ashish, and you and I will be seeing a lot of each other in the coming days. You and I will learn together some of the modules that we have collected here for you to be able to train on the manual that we have. This manual that we have for you, the trainer manual, I hope all of you have downloaded. If you've not downloaded this manual yet, please do so, because this is going to be very important in our learning in the coming days. I'm sure you all have it by now. Let me give you an overview of the modules that we have so that we all know what we will look at in the coming days. Yes, our main focus here is, as Atya has already said, on spoken English. We will look at voice and accent. What all this will take, I will tell you in a few minutes. Voice and accent, speaking, and talking of the language. Communicative grammar. We all know grammar, we all know English very well. What is communicative grammar? We will look into this. What are the areas in grammar that we need to make sure we have in place so that we can build correct sentences, speak with confidence, and be able to reach out to a global audience. Communicative grammar. Vocabulary building. Sometimes we are thinking of how to say a word. What was that word? I've heard it once, but what was it? That's when vocabulary building comes into hand. We look at the words that are most commonly used, most commonly sometimes also mispronounced. Vocabulary building will give you and your students those building blocks that are most required by us in the industry at the moment. Vocabulary building is going to be one of the very important sessions because it is not about taking the dictionary and learning up 10 words every day, not knowing how or when to use those words, because that will be of no use. We will look at words that we use every day, most often, most commonly used, so that we can put these words correctly, as we said earlier, with communicative grammar, in a good sentence, and say it correctly, as we said right in the first thing, with good, correct voice and accent. Yes? So all the modules have been based and made in such a way that they link with each other. There's nothing that we have just thought of without a background. What we have done is we have listened to students, thousands, 10,000s of them. We have come to see where do they lack, what are the areas that we feel that if this could be corrected, they will be able to speak perfectly or correctly. So, grammar being a very vast area, what we have done is we have seen and taken away a few of the areas that we feel are most commonly misused. Most commonly, such as subject-verb agreement. I'm sure all you English teachers know exactly what I'm talking about. Yes? That's where most students go wrong. So in communicative grammar, we take a look at that as well. In conversation skills, the next module that we have, we take a look at how to converse. What happens? Most of the time, students come and say, good morning, and if I ask them something after that, how are you? They will be able to say one word, fine or not fine. And if I ask them something more after that, can they converse? Can they hold a conversation? If I ask them something, will they be able to give me a good, correct, in good English, an answer? Those are conversation skills. Very important in the world today because it's our conversation, as we've said earlier today, that makes us reach out to people, that makes us get a job at the end of the day, which is going to be our focus. Conversation skills. And all of this together, we will culminate in soft skills. Atya has spoken very well and talked about soft skills already to you. Soft skills. And of course, the last module that we have is interview handling skills. Now, interview handling skills is nothing else but how to do an interview, what to say, what not to say. Yes, how to present yourself, how to bring out the best in you and present it to people and tell them, this is me, I am the best for this job. Because that's the main focus that we have in all of this program, is to be able to make all the students employable. What you and I will be looking at in the coming days is looking at this program, looking at the trainer manual, seeing what the tools are, and how you as teachers are going to learn these tools to be able to impart this training to the students. You and I will be interacting in this manner that we will go through each module. Each of these modules will have certain exercises that are in your trainer manuals and will be given to the students as well. The students will be looking at each of these modules session every day, and in that session you as teachers will need to do some exercises with the students. How to do this exercise? What is the purpose of this exercise? What are you looking for in this exercise from the students? All this is what we will look at, you and I together, to understand this module. It is very important that you as teachers and I as a trainer for the teachers make sure that each and every concept of this module is clear before we get down to training it to the students. You will see that most of the topics that we are talking about are topics that you have spoken about a lot. You know them very well. You might think, oh, grammar, I know it very well. I can get 100 on 100. Voice and accent, oh, I speak English for the past 30 years. I have a BA, MA, MSc, B.Ed. I don't know, I'm sure you have a lot of degrees behind you. So why do I need this? As all the earlier speakers today have said, learning never stops. It's something that we carry on every day. We learn every day. And that's the motive that we need to have to carry on with this program. We need to learn, we need to grow. We need to correct ourselves. There is never, ever any shame in correcting ourselves if I say something wrong. There's nothing known as wrong or right when we talk about English. There is good, and what is good? When it is clear. What is good? When it is understandable. What is good? When I can reach out to a larger audience. That is good. And what is our audience? As Atya already spoke about it earlier, we are not talking about just our audience in, say, Gurdaspur. We are not talking about our audience in Amritsar. Of course, those are important people and important places as well. But we in today's world, we are looking at the world. Yes? And we in Punjab, of course, always look at the entire world as our own back. We look at it and say, oh, I want to go there. I will be there. Yes? How will that happen? Only if you can communicate and talk to each other. Voice and accent as the first module when I'm talking about. Most of the people try and get an idea about voice and accent saying, accent? इन्हें सानू कहना है accent च गल करन नू. Not at all. मैं तुहानू बिल्कुल नहीं कह रहा कि एक accent च गल करो. Because accent is not our medium of correction. What we are looking at is that accent is clear, it is neutral. That will be our main focus, neutralization. That is what we will talk about in voice and accent. In voice and accent also what we will look at is voice as it sees, volume, how to speak, how fast or slow to speak. Yes, rate of speech. All of those things will form a part of voice and accent. In the coming days, we'll look at how to pronounce certain vowels, certain consonants, intonation. Why is all this important? We will put it all together for you to know. Also, there will be a lot of exercises where you need to listen to me to be able to make sure all the pronunciations are done the way we'd like you to train to the students. Okay? Now, most of the time, I will ask you to repeat things after me. I will say, can I hear you? Of course, in this studio far away, I will not be able to hear you from, let's say, Firozpur. But you know, only if you speak when you're listening to me, only when I say, let's try this, only if you do it, will it make a difference. You see, I always give this example. When we start learning how to ride a bicycle, cycle chalana, just sikhde aap, what happens? You have to get onto the bicycle and fall down once, twice, maybe 10 times. But what do? We don't go and sit at the side and say, okay, I will look at this person ride a bicycle and then I will learn how to ride it. No. We have to get onto the bicycle, fall down 10 times, and then maybe become a racer on the bicycle. You have to get into this program, use it, see how it works for you so that you can impart this training perfectly to your students. It is very important that we see each module, we take each module and see what are the components of each module and see where we are going with this. Now, communicative grammar, as I said earlier, what are we doing in communicative grammar? Now, English grammar is very vast. एडा वड्डा ਇਹਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਟੌਪਿਕ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਅਗਰ ਸਾਰੇ ਕਰਨੇ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰਤੇ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਟਾਈਮ ਘਟ ਜਾਣਾ. I don't need to tell you that, ਇਹ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੀ ਹੈ. So, communicative grammar, what we have done is we have taken a few modules, a few parts of grammar that we feel are mostly, ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ 'ਚ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਜਦ ਬੱਚੇ ਬੋਲਦੇ ਹੈ ਗ੍ਰਾਮਰ 'ਚ, ਉਹ ਪਾਰਟ ਅਸੀਂ ਗ੍ਰਾਮਰ ਦੇ ਇਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਪਾਏ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ ਤੇ we will make sure that we correct the students on these parts of grammar. Why? Because if we make sure that the grammar in these parts is okay, generally 90% of the time ਉਹ ਬੱਚੇ ਬੋਲ ਸਕਣਗੇ. How it will happen? It all depends on you. It's in your hands. What I will do with you is only train you on the trainer manual, see how the training goes, how each component goes, and how it will carry on further. Vocabulary building, as I said, words every day, a few words every day, and we will see how this will carry on building smaller words and then bigger words and then much bigger words, and this will carry on like building blocks, making them speak. Conversation skills, talking to each other, how to converse in many different situations. In a classroom, they all know. Maybe at a post office, maybe in an office, talking to the principal, going to a different office, asking for a certificate. How to talk in English to get all of these things done. That's in conversation skills. And soft skills and interview handling skills will come at the end, because that only comes at the end once we have built the base with voice and accent, communicative grammar, vocabulary building, and conversation skills. All this together in soft skills and interview handling skills. These are generally is the outline of the modules that we will be covering. You and I will be looking at each other and talking to each other a lot. I will be talking to you about voice and accent, speech. When we talk about English, and we talk about a language, let's say any language, Punjabi, Hindi, English, what is the most important thing that we need? Of course, correct grammar to know. But what I'm concerned about here is the spoken language. When we talk about a spoken language, how is a language communicated? How? I can't hear you. Are you there? Good. What happens when we are talking about a spoken language? A spoken language you understand by speaking a sentence. I say a sentence out, and you, if you know the language, you understand it. Yes? For example, if I start speaking in Chinese, maybe some of you know Chinese, I don't. But if someone talks to me in Chinese, or if I talk to you in Chinese, and you don't know that language, what happens? That language does not make sense to me. So, it's not only about a sentence, it's something smaller. Sentences are made up of what? One sentence is made up of what? Smaller words. Yes? Words. Now, these words put together form a sentence. What are words? What are words? Words are words. Exactly. But what I'm trying to get from you is, what is a word? When I say word, what does it say? What does it mean? Why do you understand this word? It's because a word is nothing else but a... Correct. Word is nothing else but a sound. It's a sound. Let's say sound. What is sound? Sound is nothing else but you and I take out something from our throat. Ah, oh, ooh. These are sounds. And you understand my sounds, nothing else but my words. You understand my sounds, and those sounds together form words, and those words together form exactly sentences. Now, sounds are the basic, most important component of voice and accent. Why is it so important? Because it's each of these sounds that either give us clarity or make us say, whoa, what did he say? Like I said, if you understand my sounds and I understand your sounds, we can communicate. If we can't understand each other's sounds, then it doesn't happen. Yes? For example, a sound that is said in German, and if I understand German, I understand it. Yes? But if we both don't understand each other's sounds, and we said sounds are nothing else but the smallest component of a word. If we don't understand each other's words, that means we don't understand each other's sentences. If we don't understand each other's sentences, what happens? Exactly, there is no communication. So, in the coming few days, you and I will have intensive training on sounds. Most of us, when we talk about a pronunciation of a word, we say, oh yes, this is the correct pronunciation. Some people might say, oh no, British pronunciation is better than American pronunciation. Some people might say, no, Americans they are not pronouncing it correctly, Australians are pronouncing it correctly. And some people might say, Australians, oh no, they don't even speak English. It's we in Canada who speak best English. So we are not going to go into what is better, what is best, what is good, what is bad. That is not our purpose here. Our purpose here together is to understand clarity. How do we get clarity of sounds? What is the standard in speaking? What is standard in taking these sounds out so that we can communicate with each other? Yes? Now when we talk about, as I said, a sound, it's nothing else but what we bring out from here, the voice box. Yes? How did it all originate? How did it become a language? Of course, we will not go into that. It's a long history of sounds, languages written and spoken. Yes? What we will look at in voice and accent is, as you can see on your screen and also in your trainer manual. You see, you all have the trainer manual with you, and you can see it in here, the modules and voice and accent. If you turn to page 5 of your trainer manual, do you all have your trainer manuals with you? If we turn to page 5. Yes, page 5 of the trainer manual. Good. So we have the modules on page 5 of our manual. Please remember, this is a very important book that we have here. Your trainer manual is something that you will use extensively. You all have it here, yes. On page 5, we have modules. The first, voice and accent, introduction to accent, is what we will begin with today. And we will carry on through each of the topics. For example, introduction and understanding of vowels, the concept of long and short vowels, the main vowel sounds like O and O, oo and Now this is the part where I was coming to. As you can see here, we've just written O, A-W as the sound. Why have we done this? Why have we not given the phonetics? Why haven't we written the phonemes? The ones that you see in the dictionary when a pronunciation is written in front of a word. Why? Because what we have done is we have simplified the entire process of learning how to pronounce a word. Because what we saw was, what was happening? First, a child or a student had to learn the symbol for a particular sound. The symbol for aw had to first be remembered, and then he said, oh ho, eta mainu bhuli gaya, keda si? Then he opens the book and starts asking the other person, e keda si? E aw si ke e si? The purpose is lost. Because our purpose is not to remember the symbol, our purpose is to remember the pronunciation. So when a child sees AW, automatically he says aw. He doesn't need to remember the pronunciation. But of course, I am not denying the fact that it is important to learn the symbols of the phonemes and the phonetics as well, so that later on, when he does look at the dictionary, he knows how to pronounce. For right now, what we have done is just to make sure he knows how to pronounce. Our focus is not the symbol, our focus is talking, our focus is speech. Yes, that is our main focus here. It's like when a person wants to become or wants to ride a motorcycle. Yes, he has to learn how to ride a bicycle first. He just can't directly go onto a motorcycle. That's exactly what we are doing. So we have said the main vowel signs like O and O, U and You and I will keep on looking at our trainer manuals together so that you can make notes, try and see what is something that you need mark as important for yourself. I will tell you, okay, this part is something that we need to look at very well. All of these things are something that you and I will look at. Yes? The main vowel sounds like O and O and U and Then of course the vowels of E, and E. Yes? I'm just giving you an introduction to the modules. We will look at each of these sounds clearly later. Then of course, introduction to consonants. Before that we also have diphthongs like A, O, Oi, O, U and E. Yes? Introduction to consonants. How are we going to be pronouncing consonants? Please remember, this entire module is more about speaking. Well, 90% about speaking. Okay, so introduction to consonants, manner and place of articulation of consonants. Manner and place and articulation. What does that mean? How do we pronounce a certain sound? How do we say t, d, b, b? These are consonants. How do we say them? T, d, b, all of those. Yes? We all know all of these. What we are going to do is practice them a little more, see how to train students to get the correct sound out from our mouth. Very important. The next one is, of course, important consonant sounds and their correct enunciation. Yes, important consonant sounds. Obviously, all the sounds of all consonant, each consonant sound is very important. But what we are trying to see here is what are the most important consonants that we generally always have a problem in pronouncing. Yes, those are the ones that we will look at and teach you. I will train you as teachers to see how to correct these consonant sounds. Yes, then of course we have the consonants t, d, v, w, t, d, v, w. Consonants p, b, s, sh. Yes, p, b, s and sh. Consonants z, j, j, r, l. These are some consonants that we in Punjab have a lot of, well, I won't say a problem, but most of the times have been pronounced incorrectly, especially the sound of consonant of j, like in measure. Yes, of course, then we have, as I said earlier, rate of speech, a very, very important component of our communication in English. Rate of speech, how fast or how slow we speak. If I was to speak very fast today, exactly, it becomes incoherent. You can't understand what I'm trying to say. And also, might seem I'm nervous. Some people, when they become nervous, they start speaking very fast. And some people, when they become nervous, they start speaking very slow. Exactly. The rate of speech is very, very important in effective communication. I'm sure you as teachers know this very well, because we have to talk at a rate so that everyone in the classroom and everyone who we are talking to understands. Yes? So the pace has to be good enough for a person to understand who knows the language very well, and also for the people who don't know it too well. So it has to be somewhere in the middle. What is that middle is what we will learn in rate of speech, and also for you as teachers to maybe correct students if they don't have a good rate of speech, how to correct them to either speak a little faster or a little slower. That's all that we will be looking at in rate of speech. Of course, voice modulation. Modulation means going up and going down with our pitch, our volume, with our emotions in speech. Yes, how to modulate your voice to be able to talk to someone effectively. If I was to speak in a same tone, same module, without any modulation, all the sentences, I think, sab 10 minutes so jange, because there will be no change. It will be so boring. Yes, and you will not be interested in what I'm trying to say. Also, you will not understand what I'm trying to say, because you will not know what part of the sentence is more important to listen to and what part of the sentence is not as important. That's voice modulation. And of course, intonation, a very interesting, a very, very important part of speech is intonation. What part of a sentence do we stress on? What part of the sentence do we say something higher or low with more effect? Yes, these are also some things that are used very extensively when we are trying to convey our message quickly in a little bit of time. You say these words out a little stronger, a little higher in pitch, and then you'll see how your message goes through more effectively. As we see further in our workbook, we have communicative grammar, something that we've spoken about. Parts of speech, all of us know as teachers. Parts of speech, very important. I think most of the students start doing this in the first year of learning of English, parts of speech. And sometimes we see that it's these parts of speech that are incorrectly placed in a sentence, and the entire sentence's meaning changes. So we will look at what are parts of speech and how do we have to use them correctly in our everyday English. Then of course, sentence construction, how to use these parts, how to put it together. It's, as I said earlier, it's like building blocks. You know it very well as teachers, I know it too. What we will do in this module is to try and take a different approach to seeing how to correct students in giving correct and speaking correctly. Yes, sentence construction, tenses, very, very, very important part of English, tenses. Sometimes what happens is, we've heard people or students who speak have incorrect tenses when they're talking about the past tense or the future tense, or sometimes even the present tense. They mix up their tenses, and what happens with that is not just the meaning changes, but also the entire speech, also the way the person speaks sounds incorrect and is ineffective at the end. So tenses is something that we will look at. Articles, and the, something that we will look at, where it is to be placed, where it is not. Please remember, this is not something for you to try and understand. You all know this already. What I'm trying to do here in the coming few days is for you to get to know this module that we have prepared very well, see the tools in here. Some of these tools will be new to you as well, because these have been developed specially for this program. And the last one that we look at is subject-verb agreement. This is something that I would say most of the teachers have to spend the maximum amount of time in correcting subject-verb agreement and tenses. Now, subject-verb agreement generally starts faltering when students don't know how each of the components, like the parts of speech, have to be placed. Yes, when the parts of speech and the sentence construction, something is wrong there, then subject-verb agreement and tenses falter. But when the first thing, like parts of speech and sentence construction, is in place, then everything else follows after that. So we will, as you can see, everything has been placed in a very logical manner so that we build up from the base upwards, just like you have been doing for so many years. What we will do here is just to enhance, as Athiya said earlier, this program is to enhance, to supplement, to give you extras for teaching in English. And as you can notice, what we will do with each other is mainly, say 95% of the time, in English with each other. Because you as teachers have to speak in English all the time. Most often what happens is I get the argument when I've done this training for other teachers in other parts of this country. I get the argument, ਪਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦੀ, ਅਗਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ੀ 'ਚ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਸਾਰਾ ਟਾਈਮ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਗੱਲ ਸਮਝ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਣੀ, ਤਾਂ ਕੀ ਫਾਇਦਾ? That's not what we are looking at. You see, when you start speaking in English to a student from the very first day, yes, first time he'll be like, oh my God, what is he saying? I don't know what he's saying. And over time, his brain will get used to the English sounds. He or she will start making the effort of understanding. It's because we make it easy for them, saying, sir, English bol rahe, kuch nahi hunda, baad Punjabi samjha denge. If that does not happen, if the student knows he or she has to listen to English and understand it in English, the student will make the effort. I'm sure all of you have dealt with this situation many times in your life while training in English. So that is something that we will look at as well. Vocabulary building, as I said earlier, sessions on building vocabulary for better expression. We can't keep using the same words to keep expressing the same sentence over and over again. We need to make sure that we have different words for different emotions, for talking to different people. When I talk to my friends of the same age, I will use different words. When I'm talking to someone who is a little older to me, but also on friendly terms, I will use different words. When I talk to someone in an office, there are different words to be used. Yes, the difference between using these words is vocabulary building, and that's what we will do in vocabulary building for better expression. And of course, talking about school, college, home, city, food, etc. What we will try and do with this is, we have taken everyday situations that they use, and they are most comfortable in explaining or talking about these situations to each other in, say, their first language, say Punjabi. They can talk about, if I ask them, most of the time this happens. When I've asked students before, when we were making this program, we went across schools in Punjab and other places in Punjab, and we spoke with students. And we said, tell us your favorite food, because food is something all of us enjoy a lot. I said, okay, tell me your favorite food. And the answers started coming, ji, mera favorite food jo hai, wo hai pizza, burger. And the answer always used to come in Punjabi. Yes, or with a few words of English here and there. Whereas my question was in English. So I told them, no, you have to answer in English. And what used to happen? I would say, what is your favorite food? So instead of saying, my favorite food is burgers, they would say, burger. A one-word answer would come back. And then, most of the times, they would say, oh sir, Punjabi ch puch lo. Why? That is not what our purpose is. You have to make them a little, of course it will become a little uncomfortable in the beginning, because they'll be like, we don't want to do this, why do we need to do this? Now the need to do this is something that Athiya has spoken about earlier and all through the morning. The need is that they need to speak in good, clear, communicative English to be able to get employment anywhere. And we as Punjabis in Punjab want to travel the world, we want to go settle anywhere in the world. English is something that is extremely important anywhere in the world. And India has become so open now. Most of the foreign countries' businesses are here in India now. And what do they want us to do? Because we have a great talent pool. All of the students that you have are a great talent pool. What do they need to do? They need to speak in clear, good English. And that's our main aim here. And I'm sure you will be motivated with me to correct them in all of this. And of course, we come to conversation skills. It's all of this, what we have been talking about till now, is what we will be doing as well. Conversation based on etiquette and courtesy. These are simple manners that we need to teach and train our students on. not just about how to behave in class, but etiquette and manners and in everyday life. Yes, most of the time what happens is students don't even know about these etiquette and manners that they need to have in them, and they go out in the world and somebody looks at them and thinks of them as rude. They're not rude, they didn't know. So it's for us to teach them and train them on these etiquette and manners. How to go, eating out, going on trips, visiting a doctor, simple, as I said, everyday situations that we will look at in conversation skills. In soft skills, we look at attitude, personal grooming, body language, telephone etiquette. For example, if students come to me and talk to me like this, it doesn't give a good impression. Or if they have their hands in the pocket and they are talking like this, it doesn't give a very good or a professional image of them. Yes, even if they're talking very well. Now, they have to make sure they talk in good, clear English with the correct body language. Very, very important, how the body speaks to each other. You see, even all our gestures, my facial expressions, how I stand or sit, everything makes a difference. It's the entire image, not just how I speak. Of course, 90% or 70% is how I speak, but also a lot about the body language, how I present myself. Grooming, good clean clothes, good clean hair, nails, all of that. We will be talking about that as well in personal grooming. In soft skills, of course, telephone etiquette is something that we will look at as well. And interview handling skills will be the last one that we will talk about in the modules. I'm sure you are all following me in this trainer manual that you have. Yes? You've all downloaded it. And if not, please make sure you have downloaded it today so that we all have this while we are training. Yes? Good. Now I will give you, we'll come to page 6, Introduction to Voice and Accent, and that's what we will be talking about in the coming few hours. Introduction to accent. Now, as I said, when we talk about a language, as we said, is nothing else but sound. Yes? Sound. Sound is nothing else but what we take out from our mouth. And it's the correction of these sounds that we will need to keep looking at. It's the correction of how these sounds are produced. What happens? What we are trying to do here is, of course, not to give you any accent, not to make you start speaking in an accent. That is not the purpose. The purpose is to take off any other influence on the original sounds. Like mother tongue influence. In Old English, we used to say mother tongue influence. We say now first language influence. How does this happen? Now, when a child is born, yes, a child is born, the child is surrounded by parents, mainly the mother is around, and the child grows up looking at the mother. Yes, the child takes out sounds, and generally these are the sounds that the child hears around him or her. Yes, the child says ah, o, e, generally just taking sounds out, because even the child is discovering that, ooh, when I open my mouth and I breathe out, there's a sound that comes out. What happens? Oh, let me try. Oh, eh. Yes, I'm sure you've all seen children and babies do that. It is a wonderful, beautiful experience to see a baby trying to discover sounds first. Yes, sometimes the baby also gets scared by a sound he or she has taken out himself. Yes, I'm sure you've all seen it. Now, these sounds are the first sounds that the baby takes out, and these are sounds that he has heard from either the mother, the father, or the people around him or her. Now, these sounds slowly start getting a form, and they start getting attached to a particular object. How? Let me give you an example. A baby starts to say ah, papa, and the mother says, oh, the baby said papa, and the father comes and says papa, papa. And so the baby over time sees that when he or she says papa, then either the person is there or the connection of that sound becomes with that person. Yes, and so each sound for the baby gets a connection to an object or a feeling. Yes, that's how the first language for a baby is born. Children, of course, if they are taught, can learn many different languages as a child. Yes, but most of the time the first language makes the most difference, because that becomes the base for a child to learn any language. They start speaking that language most. They don't know how to write, they don't know how to read, but they can speak that language. Yes, how did that happen? Only by listening. That is how important listening is, because even as teachers, only if we keep speaking in English will they keep listening and producing the same sounds as they hear. So for us as teachers, it is very important to have correct standard pronunciation. Yes, so this first language, as we carry on, they keep producing and listening to these sounds, and children start making their language up. Now when this language starts to grow, when they know and they start speaking in sentences, now the language grows and the child does not know what language it is. He just knows these sounds. And a voice gets an accent. How? Because as you can see on your screens and also in your workbooks, what is an accent? As it says here, an accent is a characteristic pronunciation. Characteristic pronunciation, what does it mean? It means it's mine. Yes? Also in Punjabi, I'm sure, when one person comes from Amritsar or from Jalandhar or from Gurdaspur or Firozpur, you can hear the difference in the language. Some words are used which are only particular to that region. I'm sure you all know it. I'm sure you're all speaking right now and know, oh Gurdaspur there, oh, he speaks in this manner. He is from Amritsar, he speaks in this manner. Yes, it's the same thing anywhere in any language. An accent is based on, of course, as it says here, especially determined by the regional, which area you come from, or social background of the speaker. Social background means where you are, how much education have you had, how much have you been able to study. All of that makes a difference in your accent. Now there are different accents, of course, like we've said. Even in a language like Punjabi, there are accents from all over. Yes, it's the same thing like accents like American, British, Australian. These are also accents in English, Indian accent in English. We are not saying one accent is better than the other. We are not saying this is good, this is bad. That's not what we are saying. What we are saying is clarity is most important. Understandability is most important. Yes, as it says here, our aim is not to teach you a particular accent. It is to neutralize and globalize your accent. Yes, neutralize means we will take off this mother tongue influence. Now, as I said earlier, the child has picked up the first language from his or her surroundings, and that becomes the mother tongue. Yes, we still call it mother tongue because that's the language the child has picked up from the mother. Now, whenever we learn a different language, a second language or a third language, we try and connect it with the first language we heard. A word Punjabi ki hunda? How do we say it in Punjabi? Acha acha ahe. We make a connection always with the first language. We try and understand it with a connection to the first language. What happens with that is the first language overflows onto the second language. We start speaking the second language also with some influence, sometimes more or sometimes less influence of the first language. Then what happens is, even if we speak in English, we can come to know where the person comes from. For example, if a person has say a Gujarati accent on his English, we'll come to know, oh, the person is Gujarati, or a Punjabi, or a person from anywhere, Himachal. Yes, all of these first language influences on the English language is what we are trying to remove, so that English is spoken in a neutral manner, so that when you speak to someone, they can't come to know where you're from. Not that we are not proud of where we come from, that is not the question here. It is about speaking clearly, as simple as that, so that we can communicate with a larger audience in the world. Yes, as it says here in the second paragraph, in your workbooks as well, there exists no language in the spoken form of which can be learnt directly from the written. What does it mean? It means we can't first start reading or writing a language without having spoken or heard it. We need to first hear the language, speak the language, and then we start listening and writing. And that's what we've done all our lives in learning a language. And that is what we're trying to emphasize here, to make sure all of you as teachers make sure that the spoken language is very, very important. So that only when you speak each and every sentence clearly and only in English, will your students also listen to you every day, over and over again, in that clear, correct English, and that will make sure that they produce the sounds again. Because as we've seen earlier, that's the only way a language is produced. That's the only way a language becomes ours. I used to give this example earlier about how when you wear a new shoe, we wear a new shoe and sometimes it pinches somewhere. Yes, we are walking and it starts pinching, maybe at the back, maybe in front. Yes, because it's a new shoe, it has to do that. What do? If the shoe is pinching somewhere, do we take it off and put it away and say, "Main inu agle saal paunga, agle saal tak ye theek ho jayega"? No, we keep wearing that shoe. Why? Because in a day or 2 days of wearing that shoe, the shoe becomes comfortable, becomes according to your foot, and it becomes comfortable for you to walk in. Yes, that's how we've all worn shoes and made sure it works for us. It's the same thing with a language. If the first day it feels uncomfortable, oh no, I can't speak this, I can't say this, and I put it away, it will always remain uncomfortable. It will always remain something new, something that I have not gotten used to. I say, make as many mistakes as you want for your students. Make as many mistakes as they want. Doesn't matter. This is the classroom. This is where they learn. Because if they make the mistakes here, you as teachers, you as mentors are there to correct them, to make sure and tell them, no, this is not how you say it, this is how you pronounce a word. So that when they tomorrow go out in the world and start speaking to someone, they speak correctly because you corrected them in class. And the correction can only and only happen if you have been speaking in English and if they have been replying and answering in English and you have been correcting them. So please make sure that you as teachers correct them every time and make sure they speak in English all the time. There, of course, a course in spoken English can be taken in the form of either a course what to say or a course in how to say. Of course, we will be doing both, what to say or how to say. Yes, what to say meaning situation-specific words, what to say, and how to say it. That means pronunciation, how to pronounce these words, how to say these words. Yes, there will be 3 main components of accent, as you can see here in the next part: intonation, pronunciation, and rate of speech. These are things that we will look at in the following modules. Introduction to Voice and Accent today is what we will look at, an overview, just seeing what all are the parts, yes, that we will look at, so that you all have an idea what we will be dealing with in the coming few days. Of course, what I would say is when we do a module here, please take a look at, of course, in your workbooks, take a look at the software, take a look at what the students have to be done, and of course see, you have been using these tools for the past many years, all of you have been teaching. How have you been doing it? What is the difference? This module has been made after extensive research with the students, listening to them, talking to teachers, seeing how the ground level works, and then these things have been incorporated. And of course, we will look at speech and how the speech is divided into 2 different parts, say vowels, consonants, spoken vowels, spoken consonants, like I said, all of that. And of course, accent, as I've just spoken to you. In other words, in no language is the relationship between the sound and the spelling perfect. Very important part here, the sound and the spelling. We know there are numerous examples, especially in English, where a word is written and it is pronounced in a very different way. Maybe some letters are silent, yes, like psychology, the P in the beginning is silent, yes. Honest, the H in the beginning is silent. So we can't just teach them spellings. Of course, spellings are very, very important, but spelling does not generally in English give you the pronunciation of the word. So how do we tell them how to pronounce words? We can't, you as teachers and I as a trader cannot teach them all the words in English and make sure that they pronounce each word correctly. Yes, what we will try and do is give them some, I won't say rules, but patterns. Some patterns of pronunciation in English to see how English follows, how it goes, what are the general rules that we see in pronunciation in English as well. And of course, as it says here, and in a language like English, such relationships does not even begin to be satisfactory. I'm sure you all know this very well. This makes a need for a special course in spoken English all the more stronger. That is why you come in and I come in and train the students to be independent in knowing when they see a new word, they'll have the rules saying, oh, I remember my teacher had told me this in class, that if this happens, I need to pronounce it this way. So 70 to 80% of the time they will be correct, which is very, very good. So we will look at these patterns in English, see how to pronounce the words, and carry on growing with each vocabulary session how to pronounce the words and speak correctly. So in the coming session, in the next session, we will be looking at voice and accent and looking at the components of accent, vowels and consonants as well. Thank you so much, and I will take your leave and see you in the next hour.